exact amount in euro and cents and you will win the cash. Remember, that amount is €78,106.97, a record-breaking amount. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50 plus your standard message rate to play, and you're playing across the Go Loud network of stations. T's and C's are on newstalk.com.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Welcome along to the Football Show, and we've got a lot to reflect on this evening. What went on, what has passed, what is passing, what is to come in the Premier League. It's going to be an interesting book of fixtures Tuesday night and Wednesday night. We had the big Villa fan Mike on air before the show telling us Stevie G's days are numbered, and if you were to bet on who's going to be the next manager to go, it might be Stevie G or his old buddy Frank Lampard. I think could be pretty much heading the betting. So we'll see how they get on. And of course, Villa's only win was against Everton so far. Just the fixtures this week before we get on to Pat Nevin. Crystal Palace v Brentford, Fulham v Brighton and Hove Albion, Southampton, Chelsea, Leeds United, Everton. They're all tomorrow, so the pressure is building on Frank Lampard there. And then on Wednesday it's Villa travelling to inform Arsenal. Good luck with that. Bournemouth at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Man City play Nottingham Forest. West Ham, Tottenham Hotspur, and Liverpool host Newcastle United, which is going to be a fascinating game after the 9-0 victory that they enjoyed on Saturday. Pat Nevin, how are you getting on?
Not too bad, Johnny. How are you?
I'm not too bad. What have you made of it all so far? I essentially wrote, I said the title race was over at 3 o'clock on Saturday. I was mocked up until about 4:20, and then I just doubled down at about 4:50.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I'm not the brightest chap in the world, and the game I was at...
Welcome to the show, Pat.
I was thinking, I'm running out of fingers, man. Yeah. Because it was 9-0. I need some more fingers here. I'm going to have to get my shoes off and count my toes. No, Liverpool are not to be ignored for this title race because, everybody, I think most people that I've talked to think that Manchester City are not exactly surefire bets, but they're looking unbelievable. And I was asked right at the start of the season who's going to win the title. And unlike most people who went for Man City, I said Erling Haaland would win the title. And I don't think Haaland, with what he's done so far, is going to change my mind a great deal. When Man City was really, really strong anyway, then they added him, and he's not disappointed so far. I mean, he doesn't always get the most touches in the game, but he's astonishing when he gets it. And looking at Manchester City, they're still not firing on all cylinders, and they look phenomenal. But having said that, Liverpool looked okay as well. They looked pretty damn phenomenal for where I was sitting up at in the stand watching them right from the first minute. Now, they were helped by the fact that Bournemouth were hopeless. Tactically, they were a shambles. There was this odd thing happened before. I don't know if anyone's talked about it. Before a game, do you know what? You have a game and you watch the back line warming up for a team, and they usually either they warm up in a 3 and they throw balls at them and they attack them and etc., or they warm up as a 4. And then if you're going to play as a back 3 or a back 4, right? Or indeed a back 5. Well, they warmed up as a 5. Then they warmed up as a 4. Then they warmed up as a 5 again. Right. And then by the time the game started, they were back to a 4. Now, it may well have been mind games against Liverpool. Didn't work. But the point being, it's as if they didn't really know what their best thing was going to be. Now, I'm sure all along it was in Scott Parker's mind to go for a back 4. But after 6 or 7 minutes, you thought, well, that ain't working. Change. He changed after 45. And, when Liverpool were destroying them down the right-hand side. And it was a joy to watch, but boy, was it being made easy for them. You get Salah over there, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Harvey Elliott in the first half was unbelievable. So, in short, no, the title's not over yet. No, the title race isn't over yet, but Liverpool, even for 9 goals, have still for me got a bit of chasing to do, and don't completely write off Arsenal and Spurs yet either.
Well, If you look at, say, the League of Ireland teams in Europe Dundalk had to go and play Arsenal twice behind closed doors. They made it at least competitive. They didn't concede crazy goals, despite the fact their budget would be something like $1 million or $2 million a year. Like, how can you set up a team that literally, this game was over after about 10 seconds and it was going to be a bloodbath. It was obvious it was going to be a bloodbath after 5 or 10 minutes. And there was something... I don't know. I mean, you'd almost have to be sadistic to enjoy that from a neutral perspective. You look at Travers in goal, who was completely helpless for much of the time. But how can a team be that bad at the Premier League level?
Oddly enough, they've just come into the Premier League, and Scott Parker said himself, like, he's uncertain about the qualities of some of the players and some young players in there. And it's a jump up that some can't make. And if you don't make the right acquisitions during the pre-season, then you're going to be in massive difficulties. Now, that's one part of it. The other part of it is there are some places you can go, and it is a truism, and I can promise you this is the case. It shouldn't be the case, but it is sometimes. I've watched players go to Anfield or go to Old Trafford, and I look around and it's my mates who I've played with, and I look and think, where's all that confidence gone that you had 20 minutes ago before you walked out on the wrist pitch? Where's that belief gone? It was more noticeable, oddly enough, later in my career when I went up and played in Scotland, and the players from other clubs, some of them would walk out to Celtic Park or Ibrox and they were frozen. And you just thought, what? You're professional footballers, and I had never understood it. I never got it, but it does sometimes affect them. Now, I'm not saying they were completely frozen, but when the second goal went in and then the third, honestly, they just didn't look like a team, and some of them just completely lost belief. And they certainly lost belief in the setup, the system, their teammates, the plan, you name it. So it can absolutely fall apart. It is hard when you go to those places when you've got a weak inside and the opposition are just flying. And it gets easier as you go along. See, when you get to 3 and 4, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Nothing goes wrong. You don't do anything, well, apart from Mo Salah, who missed 2 sitters. But everything you try just comes off. It's so easy when you're that far ahead and everybody's like playing with utter confidence. So, I mean, that's an excuse for it or a reason for it. But they were so far behind. But I'll make a slight prediction. I don't think that's the last one of them we're going to see this season. I think either City or Liverpool will do that to somebody else in a home game. They're capable of doing it. They are world-class teams. And what Liverpool have added, one of the things I always worried about with Liverpool, you watch them a lot, a huge amount of goals come from the wing-backs. Trent does it, Andy Robertson hammers in crosses. Have a look at that midfield over the last few years. Not that much coming for there, is there? Not that many assists in comparison. They really rely on the front three and those 2 wing-backs. Well, they've just added a couple of hell of a good players. That Carvalho special. But Harvey Elliott, wow, just wow. So you're now getting creation from different areas as well. So, Liverpool now, you've absolutely no idea where to stop them because they're attacking you from everywhere at the moment. And now that they've got it clicked into gear, it's taken them a few weeks and a few games, but that looked good. Still, I don't think they'll win 9-0 every week, but they've got it in them.
Yeah, I'm going to tease Liverpool fans by saying we're going to go back to Liverpool and the battle for the title race later on in the show with Pat, because I do want to stay down in the dregs at the moment. We're going to have Dan Bardell, the football broadcaster and long-suffering Villa fan on. But before Villa, your beloved Everton. I don't know what to make of Everton other than the fact that, Pat, when I have watched them this season, they just don't. And this is like, you can talk about coaches, you can talk about this, you can talk about that. Everton just don't look very good.
They certainly don't look any stronger than they were last season. And look what happened last season. Again, you talk about coaches, and the coach always pays the price in the end if the team's stuck down at the bottom, especially a club like Everton or, as you say, Villa. They're big name clubs, they're huge clubs. They expect to be mid-table and above. But for Frank, to lose Richarlison, the possibility of losing Anthony Gordon as well, and you look and think, whoa, wait a minute, what are you bringing in replacement for that? It's got to be better. It's got to be better than last season. It doesn't look like that, does it? Not yet. Now, it's slightly early days because there's still a few days left in the transfer window, but that's a group that's not going to be top half. No chance. whether you're Pep Guardiola as manager or Frank Lampard, doesn't matter. You're right. There's not enough quality there. Evertonians I've talked to, I was down at the first game of the season at Goodison when they played against Chelsea. Chelsea were pretty rotten that day, but Everton were probably worse as the game went on. And it's a worry. It's a real concern. And it's not really Frank. And Evertonians know this. This goes back a long way. This is wasted money on a lot of periods for a good period of time since Mashiri came in. That they've changed managers. There was a wee bit of sense and control when Carlo Ancelotti was there. But after that, some of the thinking of the buys as well. Remember that period where they just bought number 10s all the time? You're thinking, kind of handy if you go and buy other players. Now, that might disappear over a few years, and a lot of them have moved on. That money's gone. That money ain't coming back again. And you didn't get a lot of return on a lot of that, which Alisson accepted. So, it's a concern. I'll be honest with you, it's a real concern. And I think all Evertonians feel exactly the same. It's a real worry. But I still think Frank's a decent manager, a really decent manager. But see, if you're a good manager with bad players, you have no chance. And if you're against a bad manager with good players, that's kind of how it works. If you get enough good players, that will see you through. And I don't know if there's enough at Everton at the moment. It's a real concern.
What's the attitude among the fans towards Moshiri then?
I think that's all have different things. Because remember, when any owner comes in and splashes the cash, don't half love him, don't you? You just think, oh, great, he's throwing the money at it. And that's what everybody wants. But it has to be joined up thinking. And there was a slight schism. I don't think that's hidden much within the boardroom. I was in their boardroom actually after that game. There didn't seem much of a schism then, but there is, and there certainly has been, and there hasn't been a lot of joined-up thinking. And if you equate it to, say, the likes of even Manchester United, you just keep on buying in players, but is there a plan? Whereas there's a phrase that everybody used the last couple of seasons, has your team got an identity? And you look at Man City, and the identity. You look at Chelsea, Liverpool, the identity. You get the identity. And there are one of the teams you think, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what your footballing identity actually is. Because it seems so, it's like throwing mud at a wall and see what sticks. It feels a wee bit like that sometimes. Man United have suffered from that, and maybe they'll get out of it now. But who knows? Everton probably have suffered from it more than anyone else, because it's never looked like massively joined up thinking. But there's a basis of some good players have got, fullbacks are all right. It's a shame that Godfrey get injured. That's a big one for them. But real quality to get out of it, I'm worried for them. I am concerned.
Well, Lampard last season.
Well, Lampard along with the fans. Don't forget what the fans did at the end of the season was incredible. He got them fighting. He got them battling. Were they in a better or worse position from the day when Frank took over? Now, I like Frank. I know Frank. I think he's a great guy and a decent coach, but they get rid of a guy who was an exceptionally good technical coach before that. Now, he used to be a Liverpool coach. That didn't play for him. But that was just another one of these changes for changes and then more changes. And it's not easy when you're trying to build something over a period of time. Now, if you look at the clubs that tend to do really well in the British game or the English game specifically, how long's Jurgen been there? How long Pep been there? You look at what they do, I say Chelsea have had a good run. They change managers all the time, but for a long time the ethic didn't change. The people who were buying the players and the methodology and the system stayed quite similar the whole time. So if you're coming in and changing, you've got to give them a bit of time.
Well, also, Pat, if it were a fair sort of system and it was equitable and money actually mattered, it would really cost you money to keep sacking managers. I mean, you shouldn't be able to do that. It should basically throw you over the edge and get you out of the league, because you can't just keep paying off managers that you're letting go. But, I mean, football clearly doesn't work like that.
Oh, it doesn't work like that. I mean, it does cost you an absolute fortune to get rid of the managers, because you get rid of the manager, you get rid of the staff. New guy comes in and says, I want 5 more players and I want 4 out, and it costs a fortune to do it. But they've got fortunes. That's the point. They've got absolute fortunes. So it has no effect whatsoever, or very limited effect from the very big top teams. So the money that Chelsea once had, and it would appear still had, a hell of a lot of money under Bowley. Certainly the money that Man City have got is incredible as well. So for the ones that near the top, it's fine. But if you misspend it and then people start, the UEFA start looking into the finances of it and say, well, wait a minute, you've overspent and you need to cut back. That's when the trouble massively starts. You might throw out managers, but you can do that and you can pay them off, but you can't get the good players in. And it's a vicious circle, as we all know. If you look at the players that, say, Everton need just now, in the sort of market they're in, look at who else is in the market. All these teams like Newcastle are now in that market. And it's a horrible feeling to feel, but if you're a player outside and you're looking at it, you're thinking, I might take Newcastle on top of Everton. For a long time, that wasn't the case. And there's just more and more teams that actually starts to be the case. And of course, if you're down at the bottom of the season last season, and it's not been a great start this season, who's going to come that's, of the medium to top level? Because you're not going to get top level, medium to top level. They just look at last season and they look at what's happening this season. It's a hard sell. It really is a hard sell. So it becomes, as I say, a vicious circle. So, yeah, I am absolutely, as you can tell, I'm worried about Everton. I'm not saying the phrase, they're going down, because I wouldn't say that yet. It's far too early. I want to see how everything beds in with Frank, but they've got a battle.
Liverpool have been more, I would argue they've been more poor than bad so far. I mean, Saturday was a bit of a non-event really, but what have you made of them? I mean, the Man United performance was poor. They've issues in midfield. Obviously Thiago has been injured, but you're obviously impressed by this potential precocity. Harvey Elliott, what a baller he could be, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, really very, very special. Playing in a way where, just to upset Liverpool fans, if you stuck him into the Man City team, he'll look all right. One of those types of players. He'd look brilliant. He's one of that ilk. Now that's meant as a compliment, although many Liverpool fans won't take it as a compliment, but it is. He's a fabulous, fabulous football player. The wonderful thing, what that gives them, is something different, because that midfield, although Thiago and Henderson, whoever you put in there, Fabinho. But is there a huge amount of creativity there? It's okay, but it's not fabulous as in what you need to be to win leagues. But then if you start looking at, Cavalier's young, but he's got some special talents. Luis Diaz has come in and he looks a bit special. We've yet to see how good Darwin Núñez will be, but the suspicion is he'll score a hell of a lot of goals. And then if you've got that sort of creativity and that sort of firepower, they're going to be okay. They're going to be up. The top four stick on. Not surer than that. Almost certainly top two. But whether they can stick with Manchester City and get back even that little bit of a gap we've got just now, it's going to be hard, but can push them.
I mean, so Man City conceded 3 goals against Newcastle. They then conceded 2 goals in the first half at home against Palace. But Guardiola looked like a man that had, the best day of his life in St James's Park. He was delighted after the game because it was a great game. It was 3-3. They just decided against Palace, grand, we're 2-0 down, we've Haaland, we're just going to score more goals. Liverpool look to be almost like that. If they're going to be playing Harvey Elliott weekend, all their games are going to be 6-3, 4-2, because they are going to cough up chances. We saw it against Man United, but it's going to be entertaining.
I hope that's the case. My historical, I'm a wee bit older than you, Johnny. And I look back in the history. I remember the original stuff with Cruyff and the Dutch teams, then Barcelona. And 5-4 was the perfect result, or 5-3. Or, they didn't care. It's okay, we need to score more goals. Their ethos is exactly that. And they don't get that, this idea of you need to have a clean sheet all the time. Can you ever really remember Pep Guardiola talking about how desperate to get to clean sheets? It's something he rarely ever mentions. I'm not saying it's not in the radar. You don't like losing goals. But if you do win a game 4-2, you're probably beaming. You're probably absolutely delighted, especially if your team's made a whole lot of chances. And if you've watched a great game of football that's flowing, that's exciting, and you come out on top in the end, if it's 4-3 or 5-2 or whatever, those sort of guys with their sort of background and their ethic in the game love it. They absolutely love it. Drilled into the British psyche over here that, if you lose 4-2, right, let's have an inquest into those 2 goals and spend a load of time working at it. That's just one mindset. Others haven't always got that mindset. I take you back to some of the great Brazil teams of the past. They were all right with that. That's fine. It's cool. It's a game of football. Hey, by the way, it's an entertainment. And we like to see it, and that's just the way they think.
There's just a bit of Italian in me who loves a 1-0 or a 0-all draw. I was Brian Clough used to be at the front of the bus. He'd have scored 4, but it would have been a 5-all draw, and he turned the back of the bus to the defenders and say, how many goals do I actually need to score for us to win? Maybe Haaland might say that once or twice. What have you made of him so far?
Yeah, everything about him is brilliant. The thing I thought about him at the start, I've never for a moment have had any doubts. There is only one doubt over Haaland, and that's if he gets injured. That's it. Everything else is fine. Everything else he will get a whole bunch of chances playing for that team the way they play. But what he does to everybody else and how he helps everyone else is incredible, because in times gone past, they would be able to, bunch up on other players and deny space. Yeah, good luck, because you're going to have to put 2 on him.
He's almost like completely different. Like he's totally the antithesis of the way they've been playing, and now they've added him or something.
And they'll probably make him better as well. Yeah. That's the madness of it. Because all that physicality he's got is great. But that subtle movement in the box where, he's a big lad. There's a hell of a lot of him. But he still seems to go a wee bit invisible and find himself in space. That's just because he's a brilliant mover in the box. And we've all seen him over the years. People who just naturally know how to...
Well, is it natural, Pat? Like, can you teach that? It's always intrigued me. Is that just something you have or you haven't, where you know where the space might be or whatever it is?
Well, I've told this before. My apologies to anyone who's heard this before. There was a guy called John Aldridge I used to play with, right? And
vaguely remember him.
Well, I played with Aldo for about 4 years, and after the first season, I said to him, "Look, I can score. If you put me in front of goal, I'll probably score, mate. But you're getting bleeding well 40 a year, mate. And I'm getting like 7, 8, 10, 11, whatever. Just tell me the secret. What is it?" He goes, "Go where the defenders aren't." I said, "Is that it?" He went, "Yeah. If you can score, go with the defenders. There's no point going when the ball's going down the line, you run into where you think the ball's going to go. If there's a defender standing there, you ain't going to score. Just go to the place where the ball isn't." A whole lifetime. Anyway, that year I scored 19. The most I just thought about it every single game. And if you do it often enough, and I wasn't absolutely natural at it, you'll get a whole bunch of tap-ins. And people go, you were lucky there. No, you weren't. You did that. And with people that I don't think you need to teach. Some of us had to learn that specific, or try and learn that specific skill. For some of them, it is natural and born. They're there. They love it so much that they just gravitate towards space all the time. So he's got that, but he's got all the other assets as well.
I hope you accordingly dedicated 13 of your goals to John Aldridge at the end of the season.
Don't worry, he get plenty of plaudits himself. Don't you worry about that.
Absolute legend. There is something about it though, in the sense that like there's so much money in the game now, and sometimes you get a bit like disenfranchised. But you have like the son of a Man City player who looks like almost like a throwback from another era. This blonde bombshell from Scandinavia, and he's just amazing to watch.
Do you know all of the things? You could pick out every part of his game. The speed thing is stupid. He's playing against quick players. He's making them look lumbering. That's the weird bit, right? He shreds people. I'd love to know what he is over about 50 metres. Oh, he must be incredible. Starting speed's incredible. And he takes yards off of people, in no time at all. And it's a different type of speed. It's a power speed as opposed to a zippy, nippy speed. It is a power speed that he's got. So you put that on top of it. The other side, the physicality. I stand often in the touchline of Premier League games, right? And it's every single week it hits me, right? They all run out right beside me. I think, bloody hell, they are giants now. There was even a lot bigger when I played. The average footballer is bigger, particularly the defenders, bigger, broader, stronger, whatever. And then he makes them look like midgets. And he's just like, what? How can you do that? His physicality is ridiculous. So you add all that, and he looks like a different species sometimes, doesn't he? Just with the fact that he's bigger, or he's kind of evolved a wee bit further than everybody else. To do that and then keep the balance, and keep the attitude right, and keep the eye for a goal, keep everything. He is one of the special players of the era, and almost certainly will be the special player of the era.
Pat, you were a bit of a showboat. Would you expect the kicking Richarlison got if you tried that crack during a game? That's from Paul now, not me.
I tell you a wee story. I was just writing this the other day. I remember playing in one game, And I'd done, it was this left back down at West Ham, and I'd done him once, and I went back and I'd done him again. And then I'd done him a third time, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a go again. Flicked the ball around and up-megged him and got by him. Anyway, he took me out about waist height, right? And I went down, and I got up again. I turned to the referee, and the referee said, you deserve that, mate. I went, are you going to book me for getting kicked? So, I think in days gone by, too much showiness was seen to be offensive, and I don't think it as often is. I think people forget from some of our attitudes, and certainly from mine, football is supposed to be an entertainment. We forget that now and again, but it's supposed to be. There's nothing wrong with entertaining, and if you feel as if you have to kick somebody, I'm generally not in your team.
Yeah, sometimes I think, if the referee, like, there are rules, but then there are kind of ethics, and there's, like, doing the right thing. I think he did the right thing there, Pat. Briefly, before we finish up, we only have about half a minute left. This is absolutely flown. Who finishes in the top 4 in your mind?
I've not changed my mind with Liverpool and Manchester City, and I can't answer it for another 2 days yet, because I don't know who Chelsea are going to get. If they get Fofana, they've got a chance of being in there.
How big would that be?
I think that, so Fofana comes in, I think Chelsea could be the top 4. If not, and they don't strengthen there, I'm pretty convinced Spurs will be in the top 4. So it could be Arsenal, Chelsea. After that, you don't know. It'd be a real surprise. But, you just never know. Man United may come back. Others may come back. I think the top 3 is clear, but I think the 4th's harder.
Yeah, lots to look forward to. Thanks a million for your time as ever, Pat.
Pleasure as ever, John. Take care.
We have a chance for you to go along and cheer on the girls in green this Thursday in the sold-out FIFA World Cup qualifier against Finland in Tallaght Stadium. Thanks to our friends at Sky. We're giving away 2 pairs of tickets to this huge game. For your chance to get your name in this evening's draw, just answer this simple question. What Arsenal player is the current Irish captain? To enter, text in your answer to 53106. It's all in association with Sky, proud partner and supporter of our women's national team. Out, believe together and show your support as Ireland take attempts to make history and reach their first ever World Cup. Stay tuned for our pre-match coverage of Ireland v Finland this Thursday on all our digital channels. And just to say to the girls, if you are getting the better of the fullback, don't nutmeg her 3 times.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Screen Time with John Fardy.
This week on Screen Time, I talked to the very cool Idris Elba about his fondness for Ireland, The Wire, and his new movie Beast, which is all about a man fighting a lion, or something like that.
I think it's good to just really state, though, this isn't a man fighting a lion. This is a man running for his life.
Screen Time with John Fardy.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast now on newstalk.com or on the Newstalk app.
Things that put people off on a first date. Showing up late and getting your name wrong. Always a great start. Looking at their phone more than you? Hello? Someone who only talks about themselves. Oh, really? God, aren't you great? Look, no one said dating is perfect, but at GoDating.ie, we promise we'll always try and find your perfect match. Because somewhere out there, there's someone for you. And GoDating.ie will help you find them. Yes, even you, socks and sandals guy. Go on, go for it with GoDating.ie.
Build a better future with a digital transformation course. With digital transformation courses from Advanced Centre, you can improve the way we work together and do business. The power behind 3 of Ireland's leading universities, UCD, ATU Sligo and TU Dublin, have combined to offer flexible, accredited digital transformation courses, from individual modules to full programmes. Starting in September, your future is enrolling now. See advancedcentre.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner of our women's national football team. Out, believe together, and we can go anywhere.
You are welcome back, and as ever brought to you by Sky, proud partner of our women's national football team. Don't miss Ireland take on Finland Thursday night. A couple of 3 League of Ireland scores are just coming towards the end of the 3 games. All battle for Europe stuff tonight. Bows 1, Pats 2. Pats holding on there, haven't been 2-0 up. Shells 0, dominant Derry 0. Sligo Rovers 1, 10-man Dundalk 0. These are big repercussions for the battle for the top 4. I don't think the top 4 is going to be something that Villa have to worry about in the near future. And we're now joined by Dan Bardell, who I'm told here is a football broadcaster and long-suffering Villa fan, which obviously implies that it just implies you support Villa, Dan, really.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the bottom 4 than the top 4 at the moment.
Would you take 4th last?
No, definitely not after 4 games, but things aren't great at the moment.
Well, okay, we had Mike in, who's a Villa fan, very, very down on Steven Gerrard. We'll get to Gerrard shortly, but just in terms of the Villa team, where's this Villa team to where it was, say, 12 months ago in terms of quality?
There's been a few player churns, so that obviously Steven Gerrard bought a few of his own players in January, and I actually think probably since January, in 2022 as a whole...
Not good.
We've actually got worse. When he first came in, he stabilised us with the players that were already there, and I could see what a Steven Gerrard team was. But it seems that the more players that we've had come in that are Gerrard's players, the worse we've got. And it's just a strange one because it's really felt like a continuation from last season now for Villa fans. I think a lot was put on pre-season and Steven Gerrard and his backroom staff having that pre-season to get the ideas across to the players. And I think a lot of Villa fans thought, right, we'll give him a chance. Come August, it'll be a different lineup and we'll see what a Steven Gerrard team is all about. Now, we've got to August, not got off to a great start, losing to the Premier League whipping boys Bournemouth, stumbled through a win and tried to chuck the game against Everton as best we could. We went 2-0 up and then did everything we could to not win that game.
And they are bad.
And they're bad as well as Bournemouth are. And then the next 2 games, just nothing really, pretty abject. And we've lost one of our big summer signings for the whole season, Diego Carlos. That's not great because I think that was an area that Steven Gerrard identified as weak. So you're looking at the team on paper now, and whichever 11 really gets wheeled out from game to game, there's only one difference from like that end of last season, and that's Kamara, the French international, in the defensive midfield slot now. So it now feels like last season never ended, and we've just carried on, and it's just been a really miserable 2022, you know. And I'm as positive as Villa fans come. I think I've been accused of toxic positivity on social media before, which isn't something many people get accused of. But at the moment, I'm struggling. I was sat there with my dad on Sunday. You know, my dad's been coming down the Villa for 50, 60 years, long time season ticket holder. And he looked at me after the game and he just said, that was boring. And, you know, 2022 for Villa fans has been boring. You know, 2020 and most of 2021 was written off by COVID. You couldn't get to the football. You all sat at home wanting to be at the games, wanting crowds to be at football. And we're at Villa Park now. There's just something missing. And like I say, we were waiting for that pre-season, and now I'm sat there feeling like I'm waiting for something, but I don't know what that thing is.
So Coutinho 17 million, Carlos 26 million, Kamara you mentioned. I presume I don't really know what was Villa's kind of, what was the general expectation going into the season. I'm sure it was better than this. Or was there even a hope that actually Villa might become reasonably good to watch again?
Yeah, because Steven Gerrard talks about the passing game. He talked about the passing game when he came in, intensity, everything being 100 miles per hour, closing down. And as I say, those first 5-6 games, I could see what he wanted to do and I could see what he was trying to do. And I thought, right, there's a change here from Dean Smith. There's things here that I like. But in 2022, I've seen very, very little that I've liked. And I just can't understand what's going wrong. Because you look at that team, there's some good players there. I think, yes, there's problems. I think the midfield area at the moment is a massive problem for Villa, going both ways, and something needs to be done about it. But by and large, you know, even those central midfield players, they're not bad players. I think we just haven't found the right combination, and there's perhaps something missing in there. There's different teams every week, different, like sometimes it's Ings and Watkins up front, sometimes it's just Watkins, sometimes Leon Bailey plays, sometimes it's Buendia and Coutinho, sometimes it's just Buendia, sometimes it's just Coutinho, and there just feels like there's no rhythm. And at the moment, if you were to ask me what type of football team Aston Villa are, I genuinely couldn't answer it. Well, because we're not a great passing side. We don't play with any real tempo. We're not gegenpress like Liverpool. We're not counter attack. We're not direct. I actually don't know what we are, and I feel like at this point I should be able to identify some kind of style from Aston Villa.
This is a cracking stat, and there, lies down lies in statistics, and we're 4 games into the season. Only Liverpool and Man City have entered the final third more times than Villa this season.
That shocks me. That genuinely shocks me. That's that, because we might well enter the final third, but when we get there, we don't look like we know how to break teams down and what to do. And West Ham on Sunday, they were poor. Really poor. And Villa weren't great either, but I think Villa were probably the better team in the first half. But David Moyes did something to switch it up in the second half. And again, they weren't great, but he changed the formation and they've gone and got the 3 points. We're mainly wed to this 4-3, and then it's either a 1-2 or it's a 4-3-3. And sometimes it's just not working at the moment. I think Villa fans would like to see more of a 4-2-3-1, try and stabilise the team a little bit and get more of those attacking players into the team. Because as I say, the midfield has been a problem. But that stat absolutely shocks me, because we just seem so ponderous and slow at times. And I know that's not how Steven Gerrard will want to be playing. And I try and look at both sides. I don't want to sit here and absolutely lay into Steven Gerrard. That's not what I'm here to do. And I don't want to sit here and lay into the players either. But like I said, I cannot get what Aston Villa are at the moment. And it does feel like something needs to change. There was a lot of frustration in the air, and it's 4 games in. Villa's next 2 games, Arsenal away and Manchester City at home. By the end of the week, we could potentially be in the bottom 3. I know then it's only 6 games, and there's 2 hopefully winnable games coming up after that. But it's not what Villa fans expected. It's not the dream that we've been sold. It's certainly, the owners. The owners are men of real ambition. They won't be happy with this. They won't have been happy with 14th last year, but they'll be sat there probably scratching their heads and wondering what's going on as well. There's just an air of resignation at Villa Park at the moment. The prices have gone up quite heavily on the season tickets. And in fairness to Villa, the ticket prices have been reasonable for a number of years, but they've put the prices up. The kit prices seem to be higher than some of the teams. And just seems to be a sense of frustration amongst the Villa fan base at the moment, because they just want something to cling on to, something to get behind. And at the moment, so far this season, they haven't had that, and they haven't had that in 2022.
Yeah, we've a text in, only win of the season for Palace, Bournemouth and West Ham against Villa. 3 wins out of the 12 games those teams have played. That stat, and of course that isn't a text in, that's from our producer Mike, who really is down on Steven Gerrard. But to be fair, a lot of what Mike said before the show you can buy into. And what intrigues me, Dan, is that I never thought Gerrard really had the charisma to be a manager, and that sounds a bit, I don't know, blasé or whatever, but I remember there was a guy in the League of Ireland who had a short enough managerial career, and I asked an ex-teammate of his, and he said just never had the personality to be a manager. You need personality. Does Gerrard have that personality to win over players who, I don't know, don't seem to be necessarily buying into whatever the system is?
I mean, he's an engaging guy. I think he's a fascinating guy, and he's achieved an awful lot in his career and an awful lot in football. And I do feel like some of the players have bought into it. Jacob Ramsey, for example, Matty Cash, and they've probably been 2 of Villa's better performers in 2022. But there is something wrong. There's something that's not sitting right at the moment. And Gerrard has a huge backroom staff. He doesn't claim himself to be an expert in every area. He acts as more of the overseer, and a lot of emphasis gets put on the assistant manager and the coaches. Now, Villa have lost their assistant manager to QPR, Michael Beale. He's got his own way to manage himself, which is every right to do. And Neil Critchley has come in. But like I say, you'd expect with that to be a little bit of a change, but it's exactly the same as the end of last season. I'm not sitting here saying Michael Beale going to absolutely cost us, because I don't think we were great under Michael Beale. But it's that not having no discernible style at this point, and not knowing what type of team Steven Gerrard wants us to be. That's worrying. And that point that I made right at the start, where when he first came in, I categorically knew what he was trying to do, and I could visibly see change and improvement on the pitch. But I've not seen those kind of facets since, and that's a concern.
Yeah, he says Villa needs someone to step forward to provide a good cross or a little bit of combination play to get a good shot off. Obviously isn't entirely scientific. I guess what's even less scientific is the mood of Villa Park. And when when that turns, maybe sometimes it's hard for coaches to get it back. What did it feel like at the weekend?
More desperate than I would have expected, and more hostile than I would have expected. The boos that I see in the whole end upper, and the boos were loud at the end of the game. It's not just Gerrard's fault, because there's been years and years and years of underachievement at Villa, and there's years and years and years of pent-up frustration amongst the Villa fan base. But we've gone from having Dean Smith, who I think the Villa fans all connected with, and to be honest, when he went, there was a lot of upset, but I think most people could say that it probably run its course. Again, we were getting worse rather than better. But I feel like we're in the same pattern now, that we're getting worse. We're not getting any better. And Gerrard's done a lot of the things that Dean Smith did towards the end of his tenure. We were sat here this time last year saying, I'm not sure Dean Smith knows his best team. There's a lot of that being levelled at Steven Gerrard. We had the whole Tyrone Mings thing coming out the side for the first game. Villa have since said he was injured, which, you have to believe. But Dean Smith dropped Tyrone Mings towards the end of his tenure. That didn't really work out. So there is a few parallels running at the moment, and it just is not a happy place. I think West Ham coming to Villa Park on Sunday on 0 points and 0 goals. We all knew what was going to happen. I did not expect Villa to win that game on Sunday, because I know over the years Aston Villa is the gift that keeps on giving. But I did not expect West Ham to be so bad. And for them to come away with 3 points being that bad is worrying. And with the 2 games we've got coming up, you almost now feel like no choice but to write them off. And I think Gerrard will get those 2 games, and they're free hits, essentially, because we have not started the season well, and both those sides have. But the 2 after, Leicester and Southampton, I think it is, I can't remember which order it's in, they're huge games. They're games that Villa need to yield 6 points from.
Yeah, you're actually talking about 3 of the top 5, I think, in the betting in the managers to be next gone are basically Gerrard, Hasenhüttl, and in that time frame as well, Brendan Rodgers, who's the next favourite. But how long do you feel that Gerrard does have the boards back, and or will it be sort of make or break after those 4 games?
I think right now he's not in danger. He'll have the boards backing. I think, obviously Christian Perslow's put a lot into getting Steven Gerrard into the club. We lost Jack Grealish, who really now, if you look at it, the whole football club was too heavily geared around Jack Grealish, and we've lost him, and we've struggled ever since. You've then lost the manager a couple of months after Jack Grealish going. So I think it seems to me, I could be wrong, this is just my own opinion, Villa wanted a name. So Steven Gerrard came in, and he's a name, and for a period, we've attracted players to the club that probably we didn't really have any right to get into the club. Even when you look at Boubacar Kamara, who's coming in the summer, he could have gone and played for a Champions League team, but he's decided to come and play for Villa because of Steven Gerrard. And I think that's what they wanted. They wanted someone who could bring in big name players and make Villa an attractive club, an attractive option. And to an extent, they've done that, but it's no good doing that if you're going to get worse on the pitch. And we just, as I keep saying it, I can't work out what the style is. We're just getting the ball out wide and putting crosses into the box. I mean, Kurt Zouma, he can't have had an easier game than he had on Sunday in his career, because we're just putting the ball in there and he's just heading everything away. I think at one point he headed 3 balls away in the space of 15 seconds from 3 crosses. So it's all well and good venturing the final third, but you got to know what to do when you're there. And at the moment, I don't really feel like that with Villa.
I well remember, as your dad would, the Paul McGrath days, and how Villa were such a big club, and obviously still are.
Yeah, I'm biased, obviously, but I think we're a huge club, and Villa fans don't want the world. I think sometimes there's this outside looking in that Villa fans are a bit unreasonable. We're not really. We don't expect to be top 6 at the moment. That's not what we expect, but we expect to be top half, and let's try and win something. Let's go on a cup run. And Steven Gerrard himself and the club themselves have said those things about becoming a top half team and pushing towards Europe. But we look really far away from that at the moment, a lot further away than I would have expected, and a lot further away than I think the owners, who've been absolutely brilliant, by the way, further away than they would have expected as well. So there's something wrong. People are saying, I've seen a few people tonight on social media saying that, these are the same collection of players that lost Dean Smith his job. That might be a fair argument. I haven't had too much time to ponder it because I only saw it 5 seconds before I came on. But we've got to do something, and we've got to get together, because the whole club needs galvanising, because it's flat. The atmosphere at the start of the game on Sunday, the first 5 minutes, really good, positive atmosphere. They're behind the team. sometimes the fans need the players to G them up, and sometimes vice versa. But it just falls away and turns into nothing. And that's happened in too many games at Villa Park over the last few years. You just want some excitement and something to believe in, and I hope that comes. And I want it to be Steven Gerrard. I want Steven Gerrard to be that man, because I want Villa to be successful, and he's the man in the hot seat. And I don't like seeing managers sacked and losing jobs being talked about. But 2022 has been miserable.
It sounds like the players need a good brummy night out to get them going.
I don't know what they need. They certainly need something. Though they've got to get together. They've got to be better than this. Even if we come away, our away fans are unbelievable. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life have been people that I've met at away games, Aston Villa away games. They'll be travelling to Arsenal on Wednesday, probably knowing that we're going to get beat, and that's fine. Arsenal are a great side. They're on a great run at the moment. But you want to see a performance. You can accept losing if you see a performance. There's a way to lose, and Villa, they haven't got that at the moment.
Thanks a million for your time, Dan.
No worries.
Yes, Dan Bardell, the Villa fan and broadcaster, watching the game with his dad, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, watching the game with your dad down the years, and basically he inculcating you a love for a team that may or may not go very well down the years. Not looking great for Villa at the moment. Big results in the League of Ireland tonight. I wonder where they're boos in Dalymount. Bows losing again, losing to St. Pat's at home 3-1, conceding 3 goals. Shells 0, Derry City 1. And a big result, Sligo 2, Dundalk 0. So this basically opens up the battle for second and third, fourth and fifth, really. It's very, very open there. We'll go to the ads, and we'll be back afterwards, wrap through the rest of the football show.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Become a chartered accountant and transform your career. Take the flexible route and study online. Apply by September 12th at charteredaccountants.ie.
You could win free fuel for a year with Top Oil. That's worth $2,500 in petrol or diesel. There's a winner every month. To enter, visit topoilwin.ie.
Introducing Sky Glass, the new TV from Sky. It's not a smart TV, it's smarter. It's an all your shows from all your apps side-by-side TV. It's a 4K ultra high definition TV. It's a Dolby Atmos soundbar built-in TV. And on top of that, it's a no-dish, no-box, plug-in and go TV. So you see, it's not a smart TV, it's smarter. Sky Glass, the new TV from Sky. Requires relevant Sky TV and third-party subscriptions and broadband. Minimum 25 megabits per second. Further terms apply.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner of our women's national football team. Out-believe together, and we can go anywhere.
You are welcome back. Thanks to Dan there for yet another bleak assessment. Michael is back in the studio. Yeah, there's no more Villa chat tonight. I mean, between that now and climate
never
change,
again, Johnny.
Let's never mention it again. In the League of Ireland, Dundalk have been overtaken by Derry City on goal difference now in that battle for second place if the title race is over, which I believe it to be. St. Pat's strongly positioned in fourth, but if they win their game in hand, they're only a point off Dundalk. So obviously the way it works is you have to win the cup or finish in the first three, and if you don't do that, you have to finish fourth and hope that one of the teams above you wins the cup to get into Europe next year. And as we've seen from Shamrock Rovers and to a lesser extent St. Pat's and Sligo Rovers, there's a lot of money going around if you can get into Europe for a League of Ireland team. But essentially what tonight means is that Bows are totally out of the race for Europe, barring the cup. Shelbourne are sort of playing out the season. And a very good night for Derry City, St. Pat's and Sligo Rovers. I thought Pat Nevin's chat on Haaland it's pretty much nailed it. He's a battering ram, unbelievable pace.
Obviously didn't see the game on Saturday because it wasn't on. I was watching Liverpool, and there was a point where you're looking at your fancy team and you're thinking, there's games where he doesn't really do much, and it's 2-0, what's going on with City? And I'm thinking, like, I asked on this show, and it was a question, it wasn't a suggestion. It was like, is there any chance that Haaland isn't the guy and it could be a bit of a flop? And then we had the first game of the season, you're like, no, this guy is incredible. He's going to score 50 goals. And during the Palace game, I was thinking to myself, is that definitely true, though? I mean, there's games when he doesn't do anything for City, and maybe he's going to get the odd chance and he'll score goals, but is he all that dominant? And like 15 minutes later, it's like...
I think that's the
oh,
thing
sorry,
was,
that's all he needs. Like,
and
he just
what
needs
Pat said,
those
there'll
few
be games
goals.
where he's kind of a little bit in and out. In terms of statistical anomalies, Salah not scoring on Saturday must be one of the most bonkers things. You do look at him this year, and he's kind of like, obviously Nunes coming in. I don't know if Salah's role is slightly changing, but to me he looks like he's been sort of setting up more chances than normal. But it was like, it must have been 1,000,000,000 to 1 he didn't score in a 9-0 win.
Unbelievable. And you just thought, right, it's going to open up more, and Salah's the perfect person who's 100. Even when it was like 4 or 5-0, you're thinking, if you have him as your captain on your fantasy football team, as some of us did, you're thinking, it's actually grand here. This is actually still perfect for him. You know, because he's still going to grab 2 late in the game because of the way it opens up. It just never fell for him. Absolute weird stuff. One thing, actually, because I know we're out of time, that we just haven't mentioned on the show yet was Celtic beat Dundee United 9-0 yesterday away from home. And look, I mean, there's the usual kind of harbinger of doom and how terrible this is for Scottish football that is in no way wrong. But we've heard it all before. Just one thing from it, though, that Celtic do look like really, really strong at the moment, and it's just interesting now. We know they're going to play Real Madrid away in the first game of the Champions League, and there's an excitement about that in itself. But there's also something that I noticed in their first goal, and I've read since that they've been doing it kind of constantly. It might not have been their first goal, but Kyogo got a hat-trick. There was a ball in, he was standing purposely about maybe 10, 15 yards offside, like as out of the play as you can possibly be. And Celtic hit a long ball over the top, which he just stood there and ignored, as the wing back or left wing or whoever it was came on from an onside position. Suddenly, Kyogo is back in play. He's completely onside, and they scored a goal from it. And I'm there thinking, this is an interesting tactic that I haven't really seen before. Certainly not in such a kind of a, you could stand a yard or two off knowing what's going to happen, but standing so far off thinking, this guy's out of the game, what's he doing back there? And
I've thought about that before, Michael, that because they've changed the rules to such an extent that if you're literally the next bit of play, are you then just not offside anymore? And there was an interesting goal, I thought one of Liverpool's goals, but I had a friend of mine, Julian, who was an ex-referee, texting in on the show Saturday, said he's not offside there.
That was definitely offside.
He was clearly interfering with the defender.
The OG.
He's the OG. He's interfering with the defender because
he's
the
half
defender
a yard behind him. But apparently, it's not in the new rules.
You almost have to literally brush him out of the way. I think that's mad because he's basically forcing the defender into a mistake he's not going to make.
Yes, I think you're completely right. I think the idea that he's not interfering with play is nonsense. But again, they have changed the rules. And just on the Celtic thing, I thought that's really interesting tactical, idea that maybe people will follow up on, or people might do a bit more of, or maybe it'll be figured out. But at the moment, certainly Dundee United didn't know what to do with him because they're kind of trying to keep an eye on him, but he's out of play.
In theory, you could put 2 players high up the pitch or miles offside, right?
Yeah.
And then one lad runs through, basically. He's not offside.
Yeah.
So then they can get themselves into
as long as they get behind him. It's a new phase of play. But what I was surprised by is that I saw that and thinking, this is interesting. And then when I actually saw it later on Twitter, I just saw it on the highlights, didn't think much of it. And then later on, I see on Twitter that this is actually one of Ange's, tactics, and they've been doing it a lot this year.
Right.
And the replies were, cheat. That's the idea, or even in a less dramatic way, it's that's taking advantage of a rule. It's against the spirit of the game. And I hadn't even occurred to me, and it seems to me like we're having this conversation that's your take as well. It is funny, isn't it, that there's a lot of tactical innovation that's going to happen now has to kind of come on the basis of what are questionable rules in the first place. They're taking advantage of rules that were brought in for a specific reason and making more of them. I just actually, considering Celtic won 9-0, and there is probably not a huge amount to talk about from what's happening in the SPL in general at the moment, or the Scottish Premiership, sorry.
Yeah.
I just took something out of that and thought that was very interesting, and it's something I think could happen in a much more high profile game at some point, and we'll be talking about a lot.
And very kind of along the lines of what Matt Williams was saying about rugby at the moment, and that, you know, you play by the rules, but you kind of suit the rules or bend the rules to work it to your favour. Thanks a million, Mike, for your
thanks, Johnny.
Very, very grim Villa chat there. OTB AM tomorrow.
Haven't mentioned Villa in 20 minutes.
We were brought to you by Sky, proud partner of our women's national team. Don't miss Ireland, Finland Thursday night. We have the draw for tickets as well. More reaction from New Zealand with Gregor Paul tomorrow on OTB AM. And yet, this Owen Sheehan departure, it seems to have gone on for about 3 years at this stage.
It's like, you know, when an American sports person goes to every ground and
it is his last show,
season.
And that is it. I'm never saying it again. Owen Sheehan, gone but not forgotten. Bye bye.
Listen live or listen back on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud.
Guaranteed Irish business members continue to sustain jobs and communities across Ireland.
That's why here at LIA we're dedicated to continuously driving higher standards in financial services education. As the Centre of Excellence for the Education and Development of Finance Professionals, our vision is that consumers can achieve financial freedom based on quality advice from their financial advisor. If you'd like to join our community and forge a new career in finance, we're now accepting registrations for our 2023 exams. Find out more at lia.ie. So look out for the G, guaranteedirish.ie. Altogether better.
I can't stop thinking about them.